morning. I'm actually here in the daytime. And not only that, but I'm also streaming. Like I almost cannot contain myself with how internally excited I am about this. So I decided that I'm going to record part 2 of my would you rather questions, opinion, thing, topic that I had going on. And instead of creating a video and then editing it and it being God knows how long, I thought since it's a rambling anyway, I will try streaming part 2. So here it is. I'm going to try to do maybe a round of maybe 20, 30 more questions. So yeah, I'm kind of gonna breeze through it. Question 21. Would you always rather smell like garlic or a wet dog? What a peculiar question because both of them smell pretty bad, but I think the smell of garlic is maybe a little bit more survivable only because I eat garlic. I love garlic. I just had something with garlic. So, um, I think that even if I were to sweat out the garlic, that it still wouldn't be that weird, damp, heavy scent, quite like wet dog. But I really can live with the smell of garlic. So for now, I will say that I would rather smell like garlic. Would you rather never get lost again or never lose your balance again? I think I would rather never lose my balance again because if I lose my balance, then it's very likely that I wouldn't be able to make it far to places anyway. So I think I value better my physical condition more than, oh my God, where am I? Would you rather give up showering or eating it for a month? Hey, Magismo, good to see you. I haven't forgotten about you. Am I the only one here? It looks like you're the only one here. For me, it's 11:23 a.m. So I think that most of the squad here, they're evening people. But good to have you. Would you rather give up showering or eating it for a month? I think I would rather give up the internet for a month, which I have done before. If you guys who have been here for a long time may recall, I think it was back in 2017ish. I didn't put any videos up because at the time I had to ship my phone to have it fixed. I had an iPhone 6 Plus that had the bend gate situation, and basically my touch screen would work when it wanted to. So I had to ship it out, and it took exactly a month for me to have it back. And during that month, I was out. Like, I was completely out of the internet. I only accessed it at work if there was something that I had to do, but recreationally or anything like that, maybe 2 times that I may have driven out at nighttime to use my iPod at the time to access the internet somewhere. I'm not sure if mom had her laptop at the time. But yeah, I remember I went without it for that month and I didn't give a shit because y'all know that the internet does not define me. Give up the net. I smelt myself after 3 days. I am a WMD at that point. For me, I also take great pride in my showers. I absolutely need to take showers. I nowadays sweat a lot because, let me put it to you this way. If I were to give up showering, I would have to give up exercising, at least exercising to the intensity that I'm used to. And if I do that, then that means I wouldn't be able to sleep on my bed because, I mean, I'm not going to lie all sweaty on my bed. See what I mean? So there's just too many things that are connected to me having a good hygiene. And on top of that, given the nature of my job, I would get fired as fuck because you have to maintain your hygiene in order to keep your job. So that would be a crazy conversation. I should ask my managers how they approach somebody who has bad hygiene if they have experience with that. I'm sure they do. But the last time I remember someone smelling bad at work, it was about 3 years ago. and I'm not sure they ever talked to her about it. I should ask. Would you rather be a baby with the mind of an adult or an adult with the mind of a baby? I would rather be the baby with the mind of an adult because, in a sense, I already have experience with that. I was that one kid, that one 9 year old, 10 year old who always got told, you act like you're older than your current age. And I'm like, F me. That is either a very, very good thing or a bad thing. But I think the reason being, I think that the younger you are at thinking like an adult, the better off you'll be. I think it's my sense of responsibility. You guys know that I'm not really someone who clowns around too much. So imagine being an adult, but you still have the mind of a baby. I see that. I see something that reminds me of that, like adults who are a little like behind in their thought process. And it is one of the most frustrating experiences and parts of my day. So why would I choose to follow that? See what I mean? However, I can also see the value of being dumb seems to be a peaceful place. Yes, yes, absolutely. You're right about that. But I think that it is important for you to be able to reel yourself back into reality. Because I think some of us just play too much. And I think that it catches up with you. And then that leads to other issues. Would you rather have every meal you eat for the rest of your life be too spicy or too sweet? I think that having something too sweet is probably more enjoyable in my case because not only am I not wild about things that are too spicy to the point that I don't find that enjoyable, but my stomach, like having things that are too spicy, given my degree of issues with acid reflux, that stuff feels like I'm getting drilled in the stomach, like a hole is being, all kinds of perforations going on in my stomach. But something too sweet, except for, the increased risk of diabetes and all the other problems that brings, I think that when it comes to the actual enjoyment of foods, too sweet would be the better way to go for me. Would you rather have horns or a tail? I have thought about this before. I would rather have a tail because you know how other creatures tend to have it and they depend on it a lot for balance and stuff. Imagine what your physical performance and capabilities could be if you had a tail to assist you with balance. Honestly, that's the only purpose I know for a tail off the top of my head, mostly for balance. But why did we lose our tails? I have imagined that before. Sometimes as a kid, I used to pretend my belt were a tail, and I like the sensation of something being back there for some reason. I don't know, like feeling the little dangle on it. I don't know. Like, how do I describe this? The little gentle pull that the tail had on my back, lower back, it just felt different. And the best example I can also give is anytime I have a dress that has straps, I would rather tie the straps to where they are perfectly aligned on the middle of my back as opposed to on the side. There are dresses that have the strap intended to rest on one of your sides, and I'm like, ugh, I don't like that. I like symmetry. I don't like that asymmetry being created by this stupid strap. So I would rather have it directly behind my back. And then when I felt that thing back there, it's like, huh. For some reason, after I took off the dress, I missed the sensation of the straps on my back. Kind of like when you go to the beach and the waves hit you for so long that at the end of the day, when you leave, you still feel the sensation of being lighter on the water and you just don't levitate as easy. That weird feeling. I don't know how to describe it, but I just remember that as a kid, I would feel heavy. My legs would feel heavy when I would try to walk when coming home, and I'm like, oh, I feel Like I'm missing something. I missed the waves hitting me. Let's see. Yup, at least with Sweet, I can enjoy the journey to my foot being cut off. Extra arm, pick up stuff. Yeah, see, it's just that since a tail doesn't have like fingers, I wonder about the dexterity that you would have with your tail. And that's why I really didn't mention it, because it may sound easy, it may sound practical, but maybe it's not as practical as it seems. Because how flexible would your tail be? Would it be made of cartilage? Would it be made of bone? Because if it's made of bone, it would have to have joints. And if it has joints, what kind of range would those joints have? And the reason I say that is because some dogs, for instance, the Siberian Husky, at least his tail like curls somewhat. But there are some dogs that their tails tend to be pretty firm. See what I mean? So I'm assuming we would have like a Dragon Ball kind of tail, or the Saiyans have those flexible tails, but you can't assume. That would be the thing that worries me. But either way, that tail would be the way to go. Would you rather wrestle a gorilla or two alligators? Fuck me. Uh, let's see. This is probably a question of, would I rather get eaten to death or beaten to death? I think I would rather wrestle the gorilla, just beat me to death, because if the alligators start ripping my limbs apart, that would just be horrible and terrible. At least with the gorilla, maybe this mug can hit me just right in the head to where it knocks me out cold, and then I don't have to experience the rest. But the alligators, I feel like my potential for remaining conscious is a little greater. So I don't know. Yeah, I think I would rather get beat up by it. Wow. Gorilla. At least I might be able to reason with it. Yeah, possibly. I mean, if you know the body language of animals, do not communicate aggression. So with cats, for instance, just don't look at them in the eye, no matter how tempting it is. And maybe with gorillas, they might have their language that you can non-verbally express that you mean no harm. But alligators, I feel like those swamp puppies are always ready to just strike. There's no reasoning with that. Would you rather have a Texas accent and live in New York, or a New York accent and live in Texas? This is what you need to understand about me and accents. For me, the more southern sounding, country sounding accent you have, the less seriously I want to take you. And that's bad because for some reason, Southerners, and I guess this goes back to the Civil War times in which Southerners were like more industrial farmer kind of lifestyle, and the North was more like, what can I say? Well, I think I got it wrong. South was like farming, and then the North was more industrialized. I think that the education levels varied greatly during those times. But I think it's wrong that in the present, I still have this impulse of associating the Southern accent as y'all just aren't as smart. But I know that's wrong because there's a lot of great inventors and composers, a bunch of smart people that the South has bred. But something about the way Southern accents sound, all I want to do is laugh. Whereas the Northern accents, it just sounds more put together and more clear to me. And sometimes I feel like Southern accents are harder to understand. And then, me personally, I like to have an ambiguous accent because it's like, okay, I feel like I do a good job enunciating, but then I may start mumbling anytime I try to speak fast, or anytime I get mad. It's like, I just start tripping. So, needless to say, I would rather have the northern accent and be in Texas. But the problem with this question is that I hate the weather of Texas, like southern weather type of thing. So, weirdly enough, I'm gonna have to choose. that I would rather have a Texas accent and live in New York, because I think that there are certain areas of New York outside of the city. You guys know I'm not into the cities, but I can enjoy somewhat somewhat better weather up there in the summertime. But in the wintertime, I'm definitely going to wish that I was down there in Texas. So in conclusion, because of where geographically this is placing me, I'm gonna have to say Texas accent. But if this was a question of which accent would you rather have, I'll pick the northern accent. Cool. Let's see. All right. And why in Texas I don't want to get robbed by the homeless? Haven't you noticed regional accents dying because of TV and internet? Yes, they're trying to do that so-called no accent that actors are supposed to have, the tra- transatlantic accent. Is that what they call it? I have observed that, yes. And young people, they seem to have young people accents. Yeah, I know what you mean. When is the last time you heard someone say turlet? Fucking never. This is my first time looking at it like that. Turlet. Um, but yeah, I know what you mean. Accents are certainly changing right before our eyes. Would you rather have to always say everything that pops into your head or never be able to say what you feel? This channel would die if I was not able to say what I felt. So naturally, you know that I would rather always say everything that pops into my head, no matter what it is. Because in a sense, I already do that. I have a practice with that already pretty much. So it feels like a natural, smooth transition for me. And I think that communication is just vital, no matter what it is, and being deprived of your words would be pretty intense. Would you rather wear pants 3 sizes too big or shoes 3 sizes too small? Shit, give me pants 3 sizes too big, because at least those, there's a solution for that. But when it comes to shoes, there's no way that you can just comfortably and consequence free jam your foot into shoes that do not belong to you. And you're not going to go very far. Even with heels that fit me right, I'm not getting very far. So with shoes, it's just such a terrible handicap to have, whereas clothes that are too big, I already do that. Have you guys seen the dresses that I have worn maybe in my past 3 videos? There was the one in which I was wearing, it was like a bright turquoise kind of color with the white lines. That is a 2X size dress. Then the one that had like the little chain looking thing on the neck, that is also a 2X size dress. See what I mean? So it is easy to adjust clothes that are too big for you. But when it comes to shoes non-negotiably have to fit you just right, or else it'll totally deform your foot. Pants that was called the 90s. Yeah, I remember that. Yep, totally remember that. Hello, Mega Babe. Have you seen what I look like on YouTube? I feel like I have. It was a while ago though. Um, and yes, but yes, I think that the bigger pants is definitely the way to go. Would you rather work as a bouncer at a trashy nightclub or a personal assistant to a high maintenance celebrity? Shit, both of them are trash jobs, but if I absolutely had to commit to one, I would say the assistant to a high maintenance celebrity, because that way I can just pretty much make fun of them in my own time. And on top of that, if I think about it, when I think about my job at customer service, I already kind of do that. Like I'm maintaining a lot of high maintenance people or people who are trying to pretend to be high maintenance. maintenance, so it feels like I have experience with that already. But I think that being an assistant to a celebrity is just better than being in a nightclub. I've never been to a nightclub, I'm never going to. And again, I think that I would rather deal with just one person than being surrounded by a bunch of trash people. Nightclub, trust me, as an ex director, a nightclub celebs are terrible. Nice, I think you are a 10, your looks is a 9, and your personality is an 11. I think that is how to math the number 10. Why depression meter is rising worldwide? Because people just don't get to do what they want to do, I guess. Would you rather only speak in riddles or only speak in rhyme? I'm honestly not very good with riddles, either figuring them out or saying them myself. So I think I would rather speak in rhyme because I do have experience writing poems that required rhymes. And I feel like I don't tend to run into a wall mentally when thinking about rhymes. Sometimes, yeah, it may take me a second. It's not something that I'm practicing daily, but I feel like my vocab is expensive enough to where I can find something. But I would probably need to work on expanding it even more. Would you rather spend a week in the woods without a tent or a night in a real haunted house? You guys know I'm a chicken for the outdoors. So, woods without a tent, though, I'm worried about nighttime, what I cannot see, where I cannot go. So, I think I would have to spend the night in a real haunted house because what I find about haunted houses is sure, it stresses you out. So, maybe I just wouldn't have to sleep, which I already have experience with not getting good sleep for weeks now. But at least I like the feeling of having shelter, not having to worry about that. And haunted houses, do you really get hurt in haunted houses? Like, the Hollywood stuff we be seeing. I think I can deal with that better than surviving a week in the woods because the woods, there's too much life out there. Life that I don't know how to commingle with, but at least in a house, it's like, I think I can do this. But are my provisions already at the house, or do I have to go out and take a break from being in the house and get my provisions? Too much nuance there. Would you rather have a food fight or a water balloon battle? Definitely a water balloon battle. I wouldn't want to waste food. I wouldn't want to say something hitting me and landing on my fucking hair. It would be terrible to get rid of that. And how long would my shower be? My showers are already pretty long. So imagine having to spend more time getting food debris off me. No. And at least water is harmless. Sure, we shouldn't just be wasting water, right? But at least the consequences of water, the cleanup process of a water fight, it's just more practical. It's better. Would you rather meet Bigfoot or an alien? Shit. I think I would rather have an alien because at least, A, you're confirmed, and second of all, there's so much to learn from an alien. Whereas Bigfoot, I look at Bigfoot as it's just some kind of sensation. But what potential for learning do I have with that mug? Does that make sense? I feel like Bigfoot is just not as interesting as the possibility of actually interacting with an alien. Does that make sense? Zam's hip hop career starts now. No! I love me a good brain teaser. So do I. When it comes to me, though, my ability to produce that type of thing, I can live more comfortably being a rhymer more than a riddler. I don't think I'm as imaginative for riddles. Yeah, food fights are stupid. Water, you just dry. Exactly. The only reason I would go to a haunted house is to help the ghosts move on. I got haunted by two young females who died in a car accident. I accidentally stepped on their grave. It was a friendly encouragement. I can see that too. From a religious perspective, I also consider stuff like that when it comes to haunted things because didn't I make a video about that? I think I told you guys how my mom had experiences with stuff like that. Like they would hear people screaming and something about a baby that never got to be born or died. Shit, I already forgot. But yeah, that type of thing. I would like to learn how to help those beings to make it to their next place because my great grandfather had experience doing that type of thing. Like when my mom asked, so what did you do to make the scream stop? And then they all gathered as a community and like performed some rituals, some prayer and stuff, and that took care of it. So a haunted house, maybe all it needs is a resident that can bring things back around. Bigfoot is a glorified ape. Exactly. It's just an ape. We already have apes, but an alien, like, what do you look like? What do you sound like? What can you do? What can you build? Things like that. Would you rather have a unibrow or no eyebrows at all? Definitely a unibrow, which I have like only, what is it, 3/4 eyebrow material. But definitely, because I think eyebrows are a big deal. They are very important to not only defining your appearance, but your facial expressions. And to not have them, that shit would just be freaky. Would you rather always forget to buy one thing at the grocery store or always buy five things you don't need? I would rather forget to buy the one thing because I already have problems with having too much stuff. I feel like I have too much of one thing already, which is clothes. So every trip to the grocery store, when I forget something, I don't feel compelled to go back out. I get it whenever I happen to go back. Whereas always buying five things that I don't need, it also sounds like a management problem, money management problem, along with a compulsive disorder kind of thing. And I really do not buy things that are not necessary. That's one of my, uh, what do you call it? Character traits, one of my habits and disciplines. So, definitely. You would look great with a unibrow. I I don't know. I think that it would look super weird. I personally do not like unibrows. And physically, when I think about the way my hair grows, when it comes to these little hairs here, I may trim that maybe once a month. So it's not like I have a very pronounced unibrow anyway, but I think, yeah, I don't think my face shape supports me having a unibrow. I'm trying to like imagine that right now, and I don't think so. But I have worn headbands that went low enough to where my forehead was covered, and that's where I got the idea that I need a little bit of volume, but not too much volume. I think that this is like perfectly balanced. And I already have too much hair. So do I really need to have that unibrow going on? Let's see. Would you rather love Brussels sprouts or hate ice cream? I think I would rather, for the sake of health, I should say love Brussels sprouts, which I already like them. Um, but hating ice cream, I think would be a good decision because, you don't need all that sugar and cream. It's just nothing nutritious going on with ice cream. So I think I would rather truly, truly love Brussels sprouts and hate ice cream. Because slowly but surely and little by little, despite my milkshake review, I am actually kind of moving on from ice cream. I don't have it as often as I used to. Would you rather be covered in fur or covered in scales? Ooh, I think I would rather be. Hmm. Now, if I'm covered in scales, does that guarantee I would be an aquatic creature? Because if so, then that's my answer. Because the problem with fur is that, first of all, I spend time getting rid of some fur, like me leg hairs, they need to go. And I feel like fur is just very impractical because you guys know how awful the sensation of your hair being pulled is. So imagine going out and about and your hair, your fur simply getting caught in shit all the time. That's one. And second, don't get me started on the summer. And you don't have a choice but to keep your permanent coat on. Like, sure, shaving is an option, but let's just pretend that for some reason you're a creature that just needs that. It sounds fun, but I think it's better to not have fur. Now, the scales, what worries me is if I'm not going to be an aquatic creature, having scales out here at ground level, it definitely wouldn't feel right. So, either way, it sucks. But if having scales would pretty much make me a fish lady, I'll take the fish life. Forget it. I'll take the fish life. Better than looking like Whoopi Goldberg. Ah, what do you have against Whoopi Goldberg? Nah, nothing. I'm just messing with you. Would you rather eat bug burgers or natural mean? What is mean? I'm not sure what mean is. But on the note of bugs, I will tell you guys that I am not voluntarily eating bugs. Now, if I happen to be eating produce and all of a sudden, like, there happened to be a little bug that just got in the way and whatever, then sure, like, whatever. I ate the little baby caterpillar, baby, whatever was hanging out there. But me willingly being like, I'm going to order bug meat, uh-uh, uh-uh, no. Would you rather eat bug burgers or natural meat? That's a very, now that I think about it, that's a tough question. Because by natural, I would imagine you mean something like, okay, I just killed this thing and let me just have it, right? I think I would rather go, in that case, I would probably have to go with the bugs. But if I have the choice of actually processing the meat like I'm used to, like say cooking it and stuff, then sure, I'll take meat all day long. But for the sake of commitment, since I'm not a, you guys know me, I don't hang out in the gray zone. For the sake of answering your question, I think I would settle for the bug burger. Ugh, saying I would eat bug just felt weird. No, you could be scaled like a snake or armadillo. Technically, that is skin plates, but same thing, just land based. Okay, yeah, good point. I forgot about that. I look at snakes as they just have like a weird pattern to their skin, but you're right, those are scales. Armadillo, they look like that might be uncomfortable, to have. But I think that when it comes to practicality, maybe the scales would work a little better in this instance. Let's see. What was my next question? Would you rather need to sleep for 12 hours every day or never sleep again? Shit. I can sometimes do 12-hour days of sleep. They don't happen as often as an adult, but at least back in my teenage years, I absolutely could. And it makes sense because when you're a teen, you need more sleep as you're developing and stuff. Never sleep again. Shit. You guys know that I'm kind of experiencing that, but I can say that I do get some sleep, even if it's very little. But to never, ever, ever, ever sleep again, it just doesn't feel right. I like to see the transitions, but without me being conscious. Like, say, okay, I go to bed, I wake up, and it's light out. Cool. I don't have to stay up to witness that transition because I get to witness the transition from daytime to nighttime. So, witnessing nighttime to daytime, it would be a little jarring, in my opinion. So, I would rather have to sleep for 12 hours. But the problem with that is that I'm making my day even shorter because, of course, work is going to take up a big chunk of that. But on top of that, after sleeping, I'll have to make time to eat, make time to shower, make time, for living people things. So, this is a question about how would you rather spend your time? And although never sleeping again sounds practical, I just know what sleep does for me. And I don't want to assume that getting no sleep ever again in this instance guarantees my well being. See what I mean? So I think that sleep is still the better way of living, regardless. Let's see. Live forever or know the day you die. And this is why I hate thinking critically because, again, I'm like, I would like to live forever because I would like to see new generations and see what new music is going to come out, what new discoveries we're going to make, how history is going to be remembered and passed down, and how I can help pass down my own stories and stuff. But I think living forever would be bad in the sense of you just gotta get used to the people you meet are gonna die, and how do you recover from that? But when it comes to living forever, another part of it is, do I stay this way or do I continue progressively aging? Because if you live forever, at some point I'm going to be deaf, I'm going to be blind, I'm not going to be able to taste anything, smell anything, I won't be able to move. But if you're telling me, okay, you get frozen in this age and you live like this, nothing happens to your health, whatever, I still think I would rather know the date that I'm going to die instead. Because, again, I think that the way things are is you're following a pattern. This is my season, this is my cycle. I don't think I'm meant to overlap into other cycles. Does that make sense? So I think that my time to rest is established for a reason, just like it is established for everybody else. So I think that I should continue with the collective, which is we all die. Don't make me be the survivor. Yep, that's the questions to ask. Yep, exactly. So ultimately, I think I would rather know the date that I'm going to die because um, thinking about it super, super, super critically, sometimes I do wonder about that. Sometimes I think about what month am I going to go? And then I try to imagine what day of the week am I going to go? Because most people tend to die, it seems, on Fridays maybe or Saturdays. I forget which. But when I think about it, it makes sense because people go out, they party, they drive, may drive when they're drunk, stuff like that. You're more predisposed to danger and dangerous choices, I guess. But in the case of someone like me, I was born on a Tuesday. Sometimes I think, imagine if I just died at the end of the week, like on a Sunday or on a Monday in the beginning of it. Um, but to think about what it actually means to know that, I think that, and this is why I try to live my life as simply as I can. Because I don't know the day I'm going to die, I try to live as if tomorrow is not guaranteed for me. Therefore, if I were to be told, okay, you have cancer, you're going to die within a month, would I change something about my life? Of course I would. The first thing to go would be my job. I think I may have enough money to where I could get by with food and pay one more month of rent and cover the rest of my bills with the money that I currently have sitting in my bank and possibly do one recreational activity. But if I have to wait for those bad news to hit me to finally make that change, to quit my job and be like, I'm going to start living life now that I know that it's going to end, am I truly living right now? What is the point of me not knowing my death date until I get some scary diagnosis, but I'm still going to live in a way in which I'm not afraid of death? See what I mean? It's like looking at me, you might say something like, "Oh, Zam, you're still pretty young. You still have a long life ahead of you, this and that." But again, tomorrow is not guaranteed. There's no telling that when I go driving again, what if I don't make it home? So, if getting something like a cancer diagnosis were to change the way that I live my life, I think that the change needs to happen now. See what I mean? So, in a sense, knowing my death date would help me reconsider some things, reevaluate some things, because as you're alive right now, you're thinking about, I gotta make money, I gotta save for my retirement, I gotta do this, do that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. It requires whatever it requires. But I like to live like tomorrow is not guaranteed. And that's why I don't try to stress about those things. Because why would I worry about building for the future if my future is not guaranteed? But a lot of people like to live their lives like the future is guaranteed. But when something happens that it interferes with the plans that you had for your future, they freak the fuck out. I'm saying I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong, in my opinion, of course. But there's nothing wrong with you living your life like that, because for some people, it is a guarantee that you'll make it that long and live that long and make it that far. But for a lot of us, it isn't. You know, people die at any age. So imagine you spending your life building for a future, but you forget to live now. You forget to live in the present. Now that you have your health, now that you have your energy levels and stuff like that. See what I mean? So I think I would rather know my death date, and that way I can organize my day even better. And if for some reason my death date is way into the future, like say I make it to be 80 years old or something, I would probably still not change a lot of things about the way I'm currently living, because I think that my 80th birthday is guaranteed. So why would I, trip, even if I have to make it out in the streets or live in my current situation for the rest of my life? My 80th birthday is still a guarantee. So why put pressure on me? See what I mean? Like, that's one of those things that I have been thinking about, and I had a similar topic intended for a video, but I haven't really put my thoughts together. But you can tell it would go kind of in that direction, follow that kind of flow. But good question. I have thought about that before. Yep, that's the question to ask. I am a Tuesday child too, full of grace. Yep, exactly. Tuesday is the best day. Let's see. Ah, dang it, my page refreshed. So now I'm gonna have to figure out where it ended. Okay. Would you rather end war or poverty? Isn't war one way to poverty? So I think I would rather end. See, if you end poverty, is there still a need for war? Because I feel like the aftermath of a war leads to poverty, but also poverty is the result of a place where there had been a war, but it was never invested in. This is a pretty tricky question, because, say, wars tend to happen because someone wants to take over a place for their resources. If you want resources, you want to get richer. But I feel like war is caused by places that already have resources, trying to bully their way into a place that has resources, but they don't use those resources to make themselves rich. So I think that if we all had um, a rich status, would war still be a necessity? What do you guys think? I'm not sure which direction to go, but at the same time, I don't want to look at your comments because I don't want you to contaminate my opinion. But mm, let's see. Think about what other things cause poverty. There's also poverty from the perspective of a home in which parents died. Hold on, let me think about it for a second. Because when I think about war, it's like, okay, destruction, and say here, this is a land not currently under war, but we may feel the effects of war, like prices going up. Prices going up causes poverty. Uh, Ending poverty would mean that everyone with a rich status. What would be your challenges, though? Well, this question wrecked me. I don't know, you guys. I'm gonna have to cheat and see what you guys have to say if you have said something already. True, that's like having 1 million and not spending it. Exactly. I live life as happy as I'm able to wake up. Religious talk, I think. Yeshua for waking up. Good way to go about it. Good way to live. I've been slowly but surely trying to make that my priority as well. Like, okay, I'm alive. I made it. I'm here. My life is not too different, and that's good because it's not changing to be bad, even if it's not necessarily changing to be completely good. It's one of those things. Um, Poverty is a circumstance, right? Um, when it comes to that, I think I still don't know which way to go with this question. It's really wrecking me. Um, would you rather end war or poverty? Well, with war, see, I was gonna say, well, with war and big number of people die and all that, but poverty does lead to people dying too. It may just not be reported as much, or it may not be as quicker or highness in circumstance in some cases. Um, Shit, I'll just pick. I would rather end poverty because at least people who are lifted from poverty, they would have a choice to at least go somewhere that could align with their values, but at the same time, some people leave where they're from because they're looking for opportunities. So if you are in a status in which you don't need opportunity like that, would you still leave? I think I'll just pick poverty because everybody deserves to eat, to keep it simple. But yeah, would be interested in seeing what you guys conclude on that one. Would you rather be able to forget your worst memory or remember your best memory better? Definitely remember my best memory better because when it comes to worst memory, I honestly do not have memories that are absolutely horrific. Like, oh my God, I just see the flashbacks of that traumatic experience. Nothing like that. And whatever could have fallen under the category of traumatic, I guess I have gotten over it already because there's really nothing plaguing my mind right now. I feel like there's an opportunity for recovery from a horrible memory. And even psychologically, sure, stuff like that has consequences, but eventually you learn to live with it. But to give my best memory a boost, I think it would be better because you guys remember that comment I made in one of my videos in which I said, there's some stuff about my childhood I'm no longer remembering, or just there's a big chunk of it now that it's just a blur. If I could go back and be like, oh, remembering that that happened in my childhood and it's a happy memory and have it boosted, it's just great. And it would be a nice story to tell, something to carry into the future. But sometimes when you carry traumatic experiences into the future too much, I think that's an issue. And I feel like we could all do better with remembering the good stuff better. See what I mean? Yeah, that's a pretty tough question, I feel. Preach, my queen. Life is a roller coaster. Just never change, but also remember that people are different. I don't accept people who are not willing to accept other cultures. Earth is beautiful because we are, not binary robots who think the same. Exactly. And now that you mention robots, something that's been upsetting me is the rate in which people try to alter their appearance to resemble something or someone that they're not. Say, the plastic surgery, the filters on cameras, the. What else are people doing? Anyway, those things. Like, you refuse to accept your own face and you just want to change it or enhance it to where you don't resemble yourself anymore. I think that's crazy. I think that it's such a shame that you're just not embracing what you are and who you are and you're stressing over the littlest of things. That is costing you time. And is there anybody ever who's been on their deathbed and been like, damn, I really should have gotten my nails done last night? Something like that, you know? Like, what are your values? I think it's just crazy. And I think that other cultures, that's one of the things that made me feel confused about the war versus poverty question because wars have resulted in the loss of some people, some cultures, some tribes. What would have happened in the world if those people had been allowed to continue, had the opportunity to continue? I think the world would be a whole lot different, much more dynamic and things. And then let me tell you guys this. I think it's silly when we credit a certain group of people, a certain race with advancements. Like, well, the only reason cars and phones exist is because whatever the fuck had to happen for people to feel inspired into creating these things. But did you ever think about the cost? Think about the consequences. Think about the problems that this created. You couldn't die from getting hit by a car or from getting in a wreck or something. We created a new way to die. We created a new problem. When this thing breaks down, you depend on it so much that now it created a problem. If someone were to break my window, that's giving me a problem. If this thing were to have a battery die on me right now, that's creating a problem. Creating problems, problems, problems. But also, let's talk about the problems that maybe we never considered or never saw coming, such as the environment. When these car parts go bad, where do we throw them away? I cannot just take this and dump it into a trash can. That's creating a problem. So, who's to say that the so called civilizations that were invaded and were killed, and people like to say it as, well, the invaders had better weapons because they were smarter, they were superior. Who's to say that the people who were invaded didn't have the ability of advancing that much with the resources available in their environment, but they said, you know what? We are living a life that's good enough. We don't need more. We don't need to be extra. We don't need to be trying to create something that proposes into the heavens and we exit the literal atmosphere. Like that risk taking behavior. You cannot just guarantee that people were not smart enough to have these things centuries and millennia ago. Maybe this was a possibility, but at some point someone said, halt, don't do this. You don't need to. You shouldn't. See what I mean? But I hate that when discussing history, to put it simply, oh, the Europeans have won because of all their advancements in medicine, advancements in weaponry, and all that. Again, who's to say that other cultures had their advancements going on already, but you did not identify it as advancements because you had an unquenchable greed, an unquenchable pursuit? See what I mean? But just because your inventions led to our current definition of advancement, it doesn't mean we are actually advancing. Because are we happy though? Like, we have to fight for housing. Most of us are probably never going to own a house. I know I'm not going to. And we're getting sicker. We're getting sick with things that we still do not know how to fix or how to resolve. See what I mean? Like, think of it as you had created some kind of juice shop, but nobody was coming over to buy your juices because they were just plain. You weren't making money. But then you decided, I'm going to start adding butter, nut butters to my juices. I'm going to start adding seeds. I'm going to start adding and adding and adding and adding, enhancing. And then that caught the interest of new consumers. And now your business is making money. Now you're growing. Now you're advancing. But is it a good thing though? Because your intention with creating the juice shop was simply to give people a healthy drink, a healthy option. No sugars added, nothing added. Just take this kale and blueberry and all this stuff, juice it all up, drink just that. But now people started consuming this because you began to enhance it. Enhancements are not always good. It's no different from the people who are trying to not get old, to not age. Like, you're going to start Botoxing your face, injecting shit near your literal brain. Just because it looks like an enhancement, it doesn't mean that it's good for you. That's what I'm saying. Let's see. Wait, dude, by not accepting those who don't accept, are you just, are you not just as unaccepting? I see what you're saying there, but I don't think that's what he meant. Brazilian butt lift. Yeah, the BBL. It's so stupid. I mean, who wakes up a day? What has to happen to you to where you wake up one day and you go like, I just need to have a bigger ass. Like, my current butt is just not functional for me right now. That's how I look at things. I like for things to be functional. That looks like you just stole 2 watermelons from the store pretending you have cheeks. Exactly. Either you do or do not stand by your principles. Well asked question in statement form. Morals are important. Always keep morals and slightly adjust to people with low morals. At least you try to help, never let immorality drag. Right. I think I know what you mean there. The way I see it is, you guys know how I am. Um, how can I present this to you guys? Okay. You guys know that I don't drink and I don't smoke. Very likely, I will not be able to be friends with someone and hang out with them if they are smokers and drinkers, because that's just not something that I do. It's not something we're having in common. It's something that it's important for them, but it's something that to me has zero value and importance. I don't have a right to belittle the person who's the smoker and the drinker just because they do that, and just because I don't. And even with the proven detrimental effects of those habits, I still cannot claim a moral superiority. Even though here on the channel, I like to criticize the crap out of anything that disagrees with me, because I just want to share with you guys why I arrived at that conclusion, why I think the way that I think, blah, blah, blah. But just because that person is a smoker and drinker doesn't mean that I cannot respect them as people. It doesn't mean that I gotta, like, disparage them. See what I mean? And I think that is a mistake that sometimes we make, which is, well, I just cannot exist with this person. And because I cannot exist with this person, I'm just completely going to refuse to very to at the very least give them respect. See what I mean? But I think that you do know how to avoid individuals who may add complexities to your life that you're not interested in. See what I mean? But you'll still respect people. It's just that you know how to put up boundaries. That's the way I look at it. In the mud with them, misery loves company. That is avoiding your contradiction. Not necessarily true. You want to be the crab in the bucket who escaped. To accept is to acknowledge, but you do not have to follow. Exactly that. I acknowledge every human. I also dislike 98% of humans. Yay, antisocials. Let's see. I think I'm gonna do maybe 4 more questions, guys, and after that, I gotta bail. Would you rather be able to forget your, whoops, already did that. Would you rather stay young physically or mentally? Shit. I have been old mentally since forever, I guess. I think I would like to stay young physically because at least mentally, you have to accept evolutions. You have to take your progression, and as a new season begins for you, you just have to embrace it. Mentally, I think that you have to be willing to continue to grow. And I think that, and you guys have heard me say this, there are too many adults thinking with high school brains. I think we said that moments ago, didn't we? The whole question about being a baby with the mind of an adult versus being the adult with the mind of a baby. We just cannot not grow. So if I mentally remain young, that can be detrimental. But if at least I'm physically young, I like the thought of me continuing to be independent physically. I can still get up and walk and move and have energy and lift and bend, do all of those things because your physical capability dictates how much freedom you have. It's nice to be able to have the choice of, oh, I gotta drive, I can do it. I gotta walk, I can do it. I gotta lie down, I can do it. Some people cannot do that. And I think that puts a big limit in your mind, or sorry, in your life. But mentally, if you allow yourself to continue to age, I guess, I think that growing mentally is a level up. It's like moving from the first grade to the second grade, so on and so forth. Progress. You have to be open to progress. That's the way I look at it. Would you rather have more time or more money? Definitely more time so that I can make more money. Really that simple. But I think that having more time is something that people just need because a lot of time people are consumed more by what they feel they need to do to fulfill their responsibilities. And maybe if you didn't have the pressure and time constraint that you may experience as an adult, you could have a fuller life. Love and respect should also override smoking and drinking. Smoking and drinking is cheap thrills. When love is more lovely, smoking and drinking is for single people coping. Right, and unfortunately, the thing about smoking and drinking is, especially with drinking, drinking is just dangerous because, first of all, it impairs you mentally and physically. And because of that, that's why I like to stay away from people who have those habits because I wouldn't want to accidentally something happens and then I end up falling for that. And even if I'm not directly smoking, secondhand smoke has consequences. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't like it when someone is not present with me. Say, if I'm talking to you and you're not retaining anything that I tell you, you're falling asleep on me, you're just not engaging with me. So what's the point? What's the point? You don't value me. I don't feel respected by you if you do those things to me. So as a smoker, um, that's probably distracting you. And as a drinker, you're changing your brain at that moment. I can't exist under those circumstances. It feels to me like a distraction. And it's one that I just cannot live with. Does that make sense? Like when you start drinking, you change. It just changes you. It is no different from the people who are addicted to their phones. Like, sure, I'm right there next to you, but you're not engaged with me. So I feel like when you start drinking, at some point, you start tripping. And I don't like that. I love Earth but hate like 96% of humans. You're just 2% better than us. I just go about my day and try to not cry. You are the 4% I like. Riddle me this. Do couples not smoke, and if they do it together, is it a sign of their wanting to be single or a sign of their shared addiction? Do they not love each other in their shared journey? I am just challenging the single person behavior part. Sounds like a easily disprovable conclusion. When it comes to that, of course, maybe these two people bonded over that shared addiction in the same manner that maybe one person was perfectly fine, but then they picked up the habit because they were introduced to it from the person who had the habit. I look at it this way. I like to surround myself with people who seem to promote my values already or reinforce them. And I'm not saying that because I think my values are superior. It's we have that in common. Whereas if in order for me to get along with you, I have to change or introduce something to my life, I no longer can be myself around you. And I think that is a high price to pay. Really that simple. I am an alcoholic. I am a kind alcoholic. I am a big drunk teddy bear. I do not know. I am dying, but it is the cheapest way to deal with childhood trauma. I am almost about to be free from my vice. And see, that's the thing. People have habits for many different reasons, but I think that, me personally, I like to cope with my shit, but I like to deal with it in a way that doesn't need external influences. Like, say, sleeping. You guys know I've been having trouble sleeping, but just because I've been having trouble sleeping doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden trying to drug myself as much as I can, max out on sleeping pills and stuff because, oh my God, I can't sleep. I'm trying to get there naturally. I'm trying to figure out what it is that led to that. Like, am I eating too late? Am I eating too much? Am I exercising too late? Am I exercising too much, too little? Am I overthinking something? Is there something pending? Things like that. Now, if I were to discover and prove somehow that it legit is a chemical imbalance and I have to do something about it, sure. But when it comes to, oh my God, I'm going to drink myself uh, completely wasted because I had a bad day about something or I'm dealing with an old memory. As much as I talk about my problems and trauma, such as my dad abandoning me not having a family, the occasional downs that I have with my mom, my brothers, my issues at work, my financial issues, my physical issues, all that, I should be drunk as fuck right now. I should be drugged to hell so that my mind is off that. But if I can learn to cope, but keep myself at my current level, I think that's the healthy thing to do. Learn to exist with those past experiences as opposed to, I want to consume something to mute the pain. The pain is going to be there right after you're done drinking. So, how about if, as opposed to drinking to amplify a better emotion, a better thought, a better feeling, I've never been drunk, so sorry, I don't know how to describe it. But I look at it as if I can learn to exist with the trauma, but in a way that I don't have to sacrifice my physical body right now as well, I think that's a win. And that's what I prioritize. I wish you the best in your fight, not only against alcohol, but also against your past trauma. I accept I am not perfect. I do my best to not be a crappy person, even though my vice wants to take over my life. I will never give up or be a horrible person. Exactly. At least you have control. That is a big achievement, big victory. Good for you. Now, see if you can challenge yourself. It if alcohol is such a big burden for you, the way I would look at it is, in what ways can I break up from this relationship? I have a relationship with this substance, but this relationship has harmful consequences, unintended consequences. Even if you feel like you have control, try to think about the physical consequences it has on you. Because maybe one day you will have had too much to drink. You may need to do an emergency drive somewhere and then you can't. What are you going to do in that situation? You might say something like, oh, I can just call a taxi, call an Uber, something like that. Let's say that you only have you to depend on, though. That's what motivates me to never succumb to those things. Cigarettes, to me, they stink. So naturally, that's a repellent for me. Alcohol, I happen to not like the taste anyway. So that's naturally another repellent for me. But the first thing that I said to myself when I got my driver's permit was, okay, I have a new responsibility. I have to be in top physical condition in order to safely operate this thing. Zero drinking, even though I already didn't drink. But zero driving when I'm not mentally here. Like the day that I had my meltdown, like 3, 4 days ago, I was bawling my eyes out as I was driving. But the reason I did it is because I was confident in my ability. I was still focused. I was still able to see. I was still able to identify the threats on the road. I was driving by the speed limit and I said to myself, home is not very far and I have done this before. So fortunately, I have experience to reinforce the fact that sure, I'm taking a risk by doing this, but this risk is not going to mitigate itself because it takes me hours to recover. So it's either I start driving now or be trapped in this car for God knows how long for hours until I recover enough to make it home. That doesn't make sense. So at least I learned to, in the middle of a battle, I pushed through it and I made it. And I focus on the goal, which is I just need to go home so I can toss myself in bed and just chill. Let's see. Things I grew up and looked at my family and said I will never be alcoholics like them. I don't want this vice anymore. The struggle worth fighting for my sanity and health. That reminds me of I'm not sure if this was a video that I made or a conversation I had with someone, but I remember telling someone that I feel like my family is cursed a little bit and I feel like I inherited some of that, but I'm basically the point of me being alive right now is to break from that chain. And it's rough, it's tough, definitely. It feels like an uphill battle, but at least I'm not letting that trauma define me. In some cases, I need to use that trauma to explain how I got to my situation, but I don't let it kill my motivation. I'm not out here committing crime. I'm not here getting into trouble. I'm not here, having questionable acquaintanceships, anything like that. So that's a victory. And when I think about the history with my family, it's like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing very, very good. Let's see. Then change so that when challenged, you may say, I am a pilgrim master. We shall go always a little further, beyond the last blue mountain barred with snow, beyond that angry of glimmering sea. I don't have a car. I refuse to drink and why, and drink and drive. Why were you crying? Oh, I was crying because basically it all added up. So, um, there's some stuff I'm going through that has to do with home. It wasn't even related to work. I'm just sad that the meltdown happened at work when the squad needed me because it was getting busy. But basically, it's just stuff piling up, and at some point, it's like I need to escape. I need something to go well for me. Blah blah blah. Just girly shit. But yeah, it's a combination of regular life challenges, but on top of that, new ones being piled up, and I'm already pre-stressed from things like not sleeping and not having to have the best diet in the world because I don't have time. And at least on the weekends, I have time. And the reason this stream and me making videos is even possible is because I have managed my time for this. I prepared my time for this. But I need more than 2 days per week to have a healthy diet. So at least at work, I've been having a salad all the time, but I miss the days when I could go home and have time to continue my healthy habits when it comes to diet. At least I'm still able to exercise. I'm never going to give that up for as long as my body, allows me to be physical. But yeah, it just sucks because I'm alone at all this shit, and some of the things that are happening to me, it's somebody else is going through something that by extension affects me, but I am all that they have, and I'm like, that shit is not fair. I'm not your babysitter. And it just sucks that this individual could have more resources, but they don't know how to delegate, pretty much. And I'm like, you're depending on my assistance too much. And just so you know, I just can't do it. But sometimes I feel indirectly pressured into doing things because otherwise, this person, they would probably stop eating, stop going places, stop fulfilling their responsibilities. And I'm like, this is being emotionally manipulative. I'm not going to let you do that. But, it just, it all adds up. It all adds up. People ask me why I'm 37 with no car. I just don't lie, but beat around the bush. I would never be able to accept I might get into a car accident as a drunk driver. I'd rather walk, call cab, or Uber. And see, that's very good actually, because you are doing one of the most important things, which is acknowledge that you have the problem. If you acknowledge that you have the problem, now you have to figure out what decisions you need to make sure that you don't get in trouble. If you're an alcoholic, one of the last things you should be doing is driving. And I think that that is a testament to how responsible you are, because there are alcoholics out there who just have zero regard for others, and they're like selfish about it. They're like, well, sure, I'm a driver, but fuck you, I still gotta drive places. But no, you're saying, I know that I am a risk, therefore, I am going to make the sacrifice that I have to make to guarantee that others don't have to suffer at my hand. That takes guts, if you ask me. Generational curses are just upbringing. You're programmed as much as each of the sequels. One thing I learned is women like my thighs and hamstrings from walking and jogging. Do you want a leg compilation from me? Well, I just know that people who show their bodies make good money around here. So it's totally up to you. I am not for that kind of content. So if you're trying to do that to get me to see it, I'm probably not going to see it. Your husband helps, I imagine. What husband? This person is your family or friend. Shit, both. All the same game, new version. Once you realize this, if you exit the program and get to make something different. Zam, if you get married, I will let you go and die in the shower like a normal man. I'ma get up on them thighs. Boy! No homo, of course. Lol. You guys are funny. This is exactly why. Sure, the comments on my channel may be held for review, but it's to ensure that I get to see it. But at the same time, it's like I could never block anybody unless you're an absolute threat. But yeah, you guys are funny. And I just wish that more people looked at social media as, yeah, you're going to have some clowns, but you have clowns even in person. What do you do? Block them out of existence? You don't. You can't. So just learn to live with it. All right, guys. Well, I gotta bail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I had fun doing this. I will continue with these questions because there was one that absolutely, like, borderline floored me. It was about war versus poverty. And I think I'm still going to think about that one even when I go offline. But I will continue to try to make more stream appearances. Not sure when my next one is going to be, but I'm definitely going to try to not go like years without doing it. So anyways, you guys take care and I'll see you around.